Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Dawi, another submission by Shetland Apache. He's going to be facing off against Aristodemos High Elves. So let's get to the army compositions. Rune Lord here going to be leading the way for the Dawi. Just Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Same thing for the Runesmith, just this Rune of Wrath and Ruin here. We've got two groups of Thunderers, Dragonback Slayers, some Miners, and Dwarf Warriors protecting the back line. Looks like some Longbeards and Dwarf Warriors, more Miners up front, a couple more Dwarf Warriors here, 3 Miners with blasting charges. He's also got 4 Gyrocopters with brimstone guns. We'll talk about those guys in just a minute. And that's pretty much it. No artillery for the Dawi, which is pretty interesting. For the High Elves here, we've got 4 White Lions, 2 to each flank, 3 Swordmasters of Hoeth through the center, 3 units of archers, 2 nobles on chariots, and we've also got Teclis leading the way. He's got just regrowth and enfeebling foe. No need for nets against the Dawi, as they aren't going anywhere in a hurry anyway. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. You can see the brimstone gun's going to be opening up shots on the noble. You know, I see people use the brimstone guns, but I'm just not the biggest fan of them. You can see they're really struggling to be accurate here, and they really don't have the best missile damage. I mean, it's alright, don't get me wrong, but yeah, you can see they're going to do some okay work against these Swordmasters of Hoeth. My issue with brimstone guns is they're kind of meant to be like a quote-unquote anti-large type, but they actually aren't very good against large targets, I find. I don't know, maybe that's just my own experience, but like, you can see them just whiffing continuously on this noble if he's moving at all, so probably going to be generating better value by shooting at the Swordmasters instead, but I understand he definitely wants to take down the nobles on the chariots. They are high value targets, high priority targets certainly. This one's taking some nasty fire there, but the other one does manage to push through there a little bit, and the archers are kind of returning fire on the gyros as well. Another reason why I'm not the biggest fan of the brimstone guns, particularly in this matchup, is they do flaming damage. So if you're shooting at something like Dragon Princes, well, I should say if your opponent brings Dragon Princes, you're going to get basically no value against them shooting just because of their fire resistance. So it's a bit of a niche thing against the High Elves. But just in general, I feel like the brimstone guns, if they are meant to be an anti-large type missile unit, maybe they should give them a true anti-large bonus just to make them a little bit better. Even the steam gyros, I mean, they have pretty good DPS. It's not amazing, but I just feel like in general the gyros don't do damage fast enough. So I don't know, maybe you increase their fire rate or something. But you can see these white lines trying to make their way up the side here are getting a bit picked off by the Thunderers there, although the fire is not super withering at the moment. Meanwhile, on the front line, you can see Swordmasters obviously just going to clean the clock of the Dawi infantry. There's not really a whole lot that can stand against them, but at least they're able to hold them in place for a time to let these Thunderers shoot in, who are getting some pretty good work done. Another Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin going to finish off that Swordmaster there. You can see over on this side, though, the pocket is quickly collapsing for the Dawi ranged units. And yeah, some good damage coming on that noble as well. But with Teclis still online, he's got plenty of Winds of Magic left and can just dump regrowths into both of those noble chariots. So, you know, damage done is damage done, but you're going to have to get through that healing cap as well. And still more fire coming in. Now the white line's starting to be worked through a little bit here, and the gyros not really shooting at anything at the moment. Again, I would probably just start shooting in on like these Swordmasters or White Lions. It looks like that is what Shetland's going to be doing here. So this is honestly probably the best target for them to be shooting at, is these Swordmasters here in the center. And yeah, you can see it's getting pretty atrocious. The Dawi are not giving up without a fight, and even might be pulling ahead on the balance of power just ever so slightly here, as a lot of the Swordmasters and the White Lions are starting to get worn through, and these Thunders are still completely healthy. Still completely healthy in the back line. Shetland's doing a great job of kind of fire, retreat, you know, fire, pull back, get a volley off, retreat again, and splitting up in multiple directions. So you can see this White Lion is isolated between 3 groups of Thunderers. So whichever one they decide to go after, they're going to be shot at regardless. They are getting charged, certainly, by the gyrocopters, but yeah, interesting choice there, just to kind of hold them in place, I guess. But a lot of the High Elf infantry in the front line getting routed off, and it's mostly just archers left. Dragonback Slayers trying to chase them down, but these Dragonback Slayers are definitely going to be needed in taking down these noble chariots, who now finally realizing the danger and having the opportunity as well, going to be shooting in at, charging in at the the Thunderers here. They do cause a little bit of friendly fire casualties, but they are going to be able to charge around and get some really good damage done as well. And Teclis is on station to provide some support and some healing. This Noble in particular has taken a lot of damage here, but the Gyros are going to have to be careful shooting at him because they're not super accurate. They're going to end up doing a lot of friendly fire to those Thunderers. So again, probably would have been better in this situation just to go after the Swordmasters, but again, it's tough to say in the heat of battle. And the Chariot's definitely a priority, having a bit of a traffic jam here in the middle. That's not great, especially when you've got Thunderers on either side shooting at you, but they do manage to get themselves sorted out and charge through here, and you can see the balance of power has started to tip against the Dawi here. So yeah, the Gyrocopter is trying to come down and chase off some of these routing units. The Rune Lord also getting in the front line here, mixing it up with some Swordmasters, but he's getting very low. The Gyros are starting to get dragged down a little bit, and the Noble Chariot's just still online here, which is very, very unfortunate. So Dawi able to deal with most of the High Elf Infantry. There are still just a couple tattered units of Swordmasters, and this one unit of White Lions that's pretty much completely healthy here, that didn't get touched more or less. And I guess this other unit's still pretty healthy as well. So yeah, a couple units of White Lions is pretty much all that's left, but those two Noble Chariots, and of course the Archers as well, pretty hard for the Dawi to shut down, as they do have longer range than Dawi skirmish units, and Dawi don't really have mobility to go after them as well. So yeah, it's a little bit rough, but it does look like it's going to be a victory for the High Elves today. So we'll zoom in here as the Rune Lord and his Dawi Longbeards here. And I'm not sure, I thought that Runesmith was potentially in here as well, but yeah, they're going to make their last stand here, fighting off these White Lions. And yeah, my phone's going off, sorry about that, guys. Noble Chariot comes in here and charges through, and that is going to be a defeat for the Dawi. So very well played to both players. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Yeah, honestly, pretty close battle at the end of the day. I think, again, if Shetland had, rather than trying to go after the Noble Chariots with the Gyros, if he had just stayed focused on the High Elf Infantry, I think he might have been able to pull that out. It's tough to say because he really didn't have too many answers for shutting down the Noble Chariots. Another pretty rough kind of engagement there was the fact that the Dragonback Slayers kind of went on a bit of a goose chase there against the Archers, where they would have been extremely useful in helping to slow down the Chariots. You know, you combine their debuff with the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and you could potentially even stop up the Chariots. Of course, they'll do a bunch of damage to them as well, but, you know, it's tough to say. I understand him wanting to go after the Archers and shut them down. He really didn't have anything else that could potentially do that, but, you know, who's to say? It could have potentially been better to have him with the formation, but it's tough, certainly. And the Noble Chariots, in the end, racking up quite a few kills. You can see in the front line, kind of mixed results here. Some White Lions not doing great, other White Lions doing really good. And the Swordmasters, kind of the same thing here. The Archers, though, not too bad. Honestly, they were mostly just fending off Gyrocopters, but they more or less did their job in that regard. Teclis, of course, didn't need to get involved whatsoever. So, yeah, very fun stuff. In terms of the builds here, other than, you know, I already kind of expressed what I feel about the Gyrocopter Brimstone guns here, maybe as an anti-infantry tool, but just the fact that they say anti-large in their tooltip I think is a little bit misleading, especially shooting at like single entity heroes like that are considered large. They're not super accurate. They're okay. I mean, their accuracy is good enough when you're shooting at, like, let's say a unit of cavalry, but let's see here, what am I looking for? Dwarves down here. Yeah, their accuracy is fine when you're shooting at, like, say, a unit of cavalry, but when you're shooting at especially a smaller single entity like that Chariot, the accuracy, especially when they're moving fast, is just not there. And I already kind of said my piece about their DPS and the fact that they do flaming damage as well, so I would question their value against the High Elves a little bit, but I think using them rather than as an anti-large tool, as an anti-infantry tool to really aggressively go after like Swordmasters of Hoeth and White Lions, I think could potentially be pretty good. Of course, there's always a risk that the High Elves could bring something like Tempest, although blowing a Tempest on a Gyrocopter is probably not that great a value anyway. Granted, I'm pretty sure you could one-shot a Gyro with Tempest, but be curious to see actually how that plays out. But nonetheless, very fun battle. You know, it's tough matchup potentially for the Dawi, especially with some of the new tools the High Elves have access to. But you know, it's a tale as old as time, you know, as they say, the High Elves fighting with the Dwarves. So hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you on the next one.